Now you see me, huh?
First up on my list for you today is I'm a big fan of your work in television, but of course, this marks your feature directorial debut, which is a very big deal. Even with all your TV directing experience, can you tell me maybe a learning curve you experienced working in the feature format for the first time?
Well, it's definitely the most important piece of anything theatrical is the audience. So it's not to say that in television the audience isn't as equally as important, but there's something special about the experience with a large group of people in one room. So immediately from day one, even though some of my shows are technically feature film length in their entirety, this was a very, very different approach. So I kind of went into it thinking, oh, okay, so we're just gonna go in the same way as I've done before, because I felt like I was making movies back in the day when I was making TV shows anyway. So I arrived on set with my single camera, let's go. So it wasn't a huge learning curve in the physical approach to it, but it was actually in the delivering of the movie and in the exhibition of it, the theatrical version. The popcorn element basically is something that is almost impossible to kind of say exactly what it is. But when you sit in this, specifically with this movie, things that wouldn't work in television absolutely work on the big screen for everybody in the room.
Can you give me a specific example of something that wouldn't work for television but would work on the big screen that everyone can look out for in this finished film?
Yeah, I think it's the lead up to the final fight, and there is a sequence in the movie where we very, very quickly allow ourselves to get to the finale of the movie, which is essentially a no dialogue for 12 minutes. And to buy you the ability to get to a longer, basically, martial arts sequence, there is this effect that on paper feels, wow, 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 we're moving at breakneck speed. But the theatrical experience of the breakneck lead up is actually something that's quite interesting.
Here's another thing that I wanted to do to connect your TV work to your film work, because across the board, an exceptional eye for casting. There's so many people that I've been following since the beginning of their careers because your shows introduced me to them. So I know that all of these roles are entirely different, but are there any shared qualities that you see in your leads across all your projects that signal to you not only will they be good for their role, but they will be good for the way I like to collaborate as a leader on set?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. I am a firm believer in there's no such thing as bad acting, just bad casting. You know, I really believe that you can take the right actor for the right role is perhaps the better way to say that. But I do think that as a director, I really, really enjoy the craft of what actors do. And for me, what I need is someone who knows their lines and shows up with their own thoughts about it and delivers. That helps me with my overall tonal approach to everything. And I don't know if I specifically go out there hunting. I just know when I see it. When I saw Ben's tape, I was like, well, he's good. And the same with Sadie, who plays Mia. I saw her tape and I was like, yep, she's the one. I don't, like she's got it. Like that's the thing for me. And so it's interesting because you see the tape, you see the performance, but then it's also the working with them, bringing their approach. And I'm sure the actors might have a different take on my directing style with them, because I'm sure I infuriate them. But I do have a certain feeling when I see an actor either in person or in the tape where I'm like, yes, they could work. And then from there, I go from there, but I don't know what the alchemy is.
Your eye in that respect is spot on. So whatever it is, hold tight to that. I want to dig into the story now. And I always love hearing about how things can evolve along the way through every single phase of the filmmaking process. So can you tell me the biggest difference between draft one of this screenplay that you saw and the finished film everyone's going to get in theaters?
Yes, I think the very, very original draft of the movie took place across America and was still a bit of an exploration as to how Mr. Han is involved. And I think a really eureka moment for us was, what if we really involve Mr. Han and we lean into I'll call it the Jackie Chan-ness of the movie. And to me, that was just New York. We have to stay in New York. We have to bring Jackie back to New York and just go to town with what would happen if Jackie Chan came to train you in martial arts in New York. So that then became this through line, and we've had different iterations of the tournament to get us, what's the tournament? How does it work? And in the end, we were like, let's go for the big finale. Let's bring everything together with a cool finale and kind of work our way. We've seen the tournaments. Cobra Kai is endless tournaments, and the original Karate Kids culminate in the tournament. With this, we were like, we know there's a tournament. We're all in. We love this. And there's some sweet martial arts in the tournament sequence. But I was like, let's get to the end. Let's go Lord of the Rings on the end and have like a real battle on top of a mountain. It's like that was my approach to that. So yeah.
So you just brought up Cobra Kai. So I'll go there because it's an interesting situation where that show had wrapped up so soon before your movie is hitting theaters. So I'm curious to hear a little bit about the experience of figuring out how much your movie should connect to that and feel like it naturally flows from that to your story, and how much you wanted your movie just to stand on its own 2 feet and work for people who have never seen an episode of Cobra Kai.
Well, that's the most important thing. To make a movie that can fit within a niche IP and appeal to the general audience, I think is the magic dust, right? Like that's the thing that you really want your movies to do, to be enjoyed, to have a solid IP that people can connect with, and then go in there and feel that. I think we were helped by the fact that the characters we can play with are the motion picture characters. So we were helped by that, because that then meant that we could make our individual story and cherry pick from the original movies what pieces we could use. And I don't know if the audience want there's many seasons of Cobra Kai. This is not a Cobra Kai movie. It's within the Karate Kid universe, and it's got threads of homage to the absolute huge success that show was for the franchise. But it's the next piece, just like Cobra Kai was the next piece to the movies. This is the next piece to the overall franchise. It's another chapter in the story. It's another graphic novel in the sequence.
Just to play with this idea for fun, if you could direct one scene between Lee and a character from Cobra Kai, who would you choose and how might their interaction go?
I think it's really interesting because I've seen many things online pitting like, is Lee Fong going to be able to beat Hawk? And I was like, you know what? Let's just go straight. Let's just do Robbie. Let's just do Robbie and let's just go straight to it. I want to see them. I already know who's going to win, but that's what I would want to see. And I would want the interaction to be like mean and hard. I want to see some really, really good fights. That's what I want.
I'm not opposed to that. Here's another character in your movie that I was really eager to ask about. Just tell me absolutely everything about figuring out how to incorporate Wyatt in this film, because I think he might have been one of the biggest surprises for me. And I absolutely loved every time he popped up.
Yeah, exactly. I think, look, I wrote the character specifically for Wyatt. I was like, look, we were toying with this idea of like, who helps Lee? Who is that kind of like, not the sidekick, but the sidekick, like in there, and how could that work? And I was like, well, I know why it's going to deliver because I worked with him, many times. And I just was like, what's the New Yorkie version of the classic sidekick? And I was like, okay, let's go and build this Alan Federman character that can just kind of help Lee along the way, be the comic relief. And honestly, when we first started to show people the movie, people were like, oh my God, Alan is my favorite character. And he really leaned into that. And so he's always a pleasure. He's a real star, and he's a very, very interesting guy. He can go between all these different characters, but I'm sure he's annoyed that I always make him play kind of the same character. But he's played so many Stanleys that I almost called him Stanley again. That would have been fun.
There's so many lines in this movie where you could just totally tell that in his hands, it works, and it would never work to that extent with anybody else. I was so impressed by him. As always, huge congratulations on the movie, and thanks for your time today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.